Tattoo Aftercare, the full guide for the freshly inked. Written by Ryan Jaunzemis. Foreword by Alcaraz, a.k.a. Tat That Ass. Narrated by Ryan Jaunzemis. Copyright 2014. Disclaimer. The author of this book, Ryan Jaunzemis, does not assume any liability for your personal actions. The advice on tattoo aftercare, in which I'm going to deliver to you here within the pages and/or confines of this book, cannot be taken for any sound medical advice and must be taken for entertainment purposes only. If you, the reader, so choose to partake in any of the following advice or activities discussed or suggested here within, then you do so at your own risk. Upon reading this article, if you so choose to partake in any of the activities so mentioned, then you agree to waive the right to sue Ryan Jaunzemis and any other applicable parties in the event of any injury, death, or any other incidental or coincidental damages arising from your actions. You also agree to assume and accept all risks of serious bodily injury arising from such activities. Furthermore, I am not a doctor or a physician. Any such medical advice that is given here within are reports of my own personal findings and experience, and is advice that I myself have used during the natural healing process of my own tattoos, and which I have found most beneficial to my own personal success, health, and well-being. Any such advice given must be taken solely for entertainment purposes only, and at your own risk. If you, the reader, so choose to partake in any of the advice given here within, then you, the participant, agrees to take full responsibility for themselves and for their actions. Remember, before using any such advice, always remember to first consult your doctor or physician. Foreword by Alcaraz, a.k.a. Tat That Ass.
As soon as I met Ryan, we were both eager to show each other our own styles of tattooing. Halfway through our first session, our personalities and mindsets clicked together on our visions of business, money, ink, and women. From that point on, I had quickly recognized the fact that Ryan and I were slowly becoming good friends, possibly even business partners. I've been tattooing for over 20 years, from working in shops to tattooing out of the house, and even while in jail, using nothing but pencil graphite and a single staple. Ryan and I have done hundreds of hours of work on each other, as well as several collaborations with numerous other artists. Now, almost 4 years later, it's a lot more than just tattooing, as we both have many other means of generating income. Personally, I fuck with only real people. And Ryan is a boss. That is why I keep him in my inner circle. He is sharp-minded, intelligent, and knows how to translate his hustle into many different forms of income: books, music, CDs, DVDs, etc. Ryan's new book, Tattoo Aftercare, the full guide for the freshly inked, is his step-by-step guide to preserving your fresh ink. Your artist will appreciate you respecting his work. This book has some amazing advice in it. But what's even more amazing is the fact that this book, unlike so many others that have been written about this subject, is not written from the perspective of a doctor or a lawyer. This book is actually written by a real motherfucker from the streets who actually does tats himself and has tats on him, meaning this book has been written in a language that I believe anyone who is involved within our industry will easily be able to read and really understand. It doesn't matter whether you've just gotten your first tattoo or you're an experienced veteran, or even if you're a fellow tattoo artist with years of experience under your belt. This book is for you. After reading Ryan's books and then viewing things from his unique perspective, one can clearly see why Ryan's specialized knowledge and expertise are very essential factors in the works of my business. Not many people can do what Ryan has done, incorporating the street hustle and the business aspect. When you listen to Ryan's music, watch his music videos on his YouTube channel, and read his various publications, you will quickly recognize that he is about this lifestyle for real. His tats tell a story, from the struggle to the hustle, to the executive position where he now sits, comfortably. In this book, Ryan is going to share with you some of his wisdom and knowledge that he has experienced throughout life, as well as his experience under the tattoo gun. Ryan has well over 200 hours of ink work on him. I know, because I did most of it. He has gone through what works and what doesn't work, so he knows the best way to take care of a badass tattoo. Remember, having the artist do the work is only half of the tattoo. The other part is up to you. Thank you for reading, and if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, etc., please don't hesitate to contact me, and don't forget to tat that ass. Thank you, and get your ink on. Signed, Albert Alcaraz, a.k.a. Tat That Ass.
Dedication. To my homeboy Anthony. Thank you for having the trust and confidence in me to place a fucking needle in my hand, knowing I ain't ever even tattooed before, and allowed me to just go ham on that ass like it ain't no thing. Guess it's like that old saying goes, cocaine's a hell of a drug. Anyways, that first experience has really opened my eyes to a newfound niche that otherwise I may have never found within myself. Good shit, homie. Thank you. And much love. Signed, Ryan Jaunzemis. Prologue. What the fuck is on my sheets? Huh? What is that? I thought to myself as I lay in bed. I had awoken quite abruptly. I'd felt something odd against the left side of my face. A cold and slimy-like sensation. What the fuck? It was as if I was lying in a puddle of something wet, but it was up near my cheek. I propped myself up, slowly squinting my eyes, as it was still quite early in the morning. Ugh. What the fuck is that? I said to myself out loud as I sat up quickly. As I was sitting up in the middle of my bed, I quickly turned around to stare back down at my pillow. Oh, fuck! I exclaimed. Instantly, I'd noticed what had appeared to be a giant wad of A&D original ointment that had apparently smeared off of my new tattoo that I'd just gotten the night before on my left shoulder. I was out and about with my buddy Brian Agee, screwing off over in Hollywood, hanging out, shotgunning beers, and chain-smoking cigarettes on the Sunset Strip. Our typical weekend soiree. I was 18 at the time, but I would have some of my older friends buy us beer. Brian and I would go out and get pissed drunk while blasting the stereo and cruising around aimlessly up and down the strip in his old black throwback Oldsmobile. We enjoyed chilling out on Friday and Saturday nights, before usually making a cameo appearance at the Palace, a famous local nightclub off of Sunset and Vine, to dance around, listen to music, and try to pick up on random young hotties. On this particular evening, Brian had suggested that the two of us visit the Shamrock Social Club and finally get our first tattoos. We had been talking about doing so for ages. Brian and I had met back in the 7th grade. The two of us had been going on and on about getting tattoos all through high school. We were just waiting until we finally turned 18. Due to California law. Boo. I had been rapping and making music ever since I was 9 years old, and I had always dreamed of getting all sleeved up so that I could rap on stage with my shirt off and represent the West Coast to the fullest. Hey, Jaunzemis, I got a few extra bones, man. Let's get some ink done tonight, Brian suggested. Yeah, it's fucking time, man, I replied. I know, right? We've been talking about it for like years now? Brian said. Hell yeah, I exclaimed. Let's do it, brother. On this particular evening, the moment just seemed right, so we hopped on the 101 North, the Hollywood freeway, and went for it. Brian had decided that he wanted to get a tiger tattooed on his shoulder. Tiger was his pet name, a name given to him by a girl named Katie that he was seeing at the time. And I, being a pro skater and soaper, had decided that I wanted to get the company logo for Relate Video Productions, one of the companies that I was sponsored by at the time. The Relate logo was a small tribal-like looking symbol, two separate hook-like shapes connecting to one another, forming the letter R in the middle. I couldn't wait to finally get it done. I was really excited. While Brian was getting his tiger tattoo done, I was on the other side of the tattoo parlor, getting my Relate tat worked on. I had instructed the artist to color in my tattoo using a bright royal blue ink with a silver outline. Now, one would think that someone who worked in a professional shop would know what the fuck he or she was doing. But little did I know at the time, my artist was really just, in fact, an apprentice. Lesson learned: never take things at face value, especially in the world of tattooing. The artist, to whom I had assumed would have had a greater level of expertise. Second lesson learned: never assume. Had completely fucked up my tat. The stencil was fucked up. The outline of the tattoo was jagged. A few of his lines were blown out. But worst of all, the advice that this tattoo artist had given me on the aftercare or afterlife of my tattoo was completely off base. In all honesty, I think the guy might have even been drunk. Anyways, my artist, upon the completion of his work, smeared on a giant goopy glob of A&D original ointment without even rubbing it in, and then wrapped up the fresh tattoo in saran wrapping, cling film. He then instructed me to, 1, not shower afterwards, and 2, to just take off the wrap when I got home and quote unquote, just smear on a lot more ointment before bed. Continue putting it on every day for like 2 weeks or so. I listened to my artist's advice, but being the fact that I was a complete noob in the world of tattooing, I had quickly made the mistake of taking this advice as absolute doctrine, as most newbies will tend to do. Oops. Upon leaving the shop, Brian and I drove down to the store, where we each purchased 3 giant tubes of A&D original ointment, enough that we thought should last each of us for the entire 2 weeks. And then some. This should be enough, I thought to myself. Still to this day, I wonder to myself, how in the fuck did this idiot even manage to get a job in a professional shop? I mean, seriously. For one, the asshole couldn't tattoo for shit. And 2, he definitely didn't know jack shit about tattoo aftercare for his customers. In no way whatsoever was this professional. And in all honesty, I was rather pissed. I thought. So much for my fucking pillow, I guess. I was speaking to myself out loud. As I was sitting up in my bed, staring back down at my pillow, amidst the giant goopy smear of ointment, was the bright blue mirror image of the Relate logo inked into my pillow. It appeared as if the ointment had sucked most of the ink right out of my skin and had transferred it into the casing of my pillow. But there was more. I began slowly crawling my way out of bed. It was early, and I was still quite groggy for that time of the morning. I've never really been a morning person. Fuck all that shit. But while I was getting up, I looked down and noticed a bit more blue ink on my sheets. What the fuck? I said to myself. It appeared as if every area on the bed where I had rolled, that is, every spot where my shoulder had been lying throughout the night, some of the ink had bled out and had transferred into my sheets. The same image, though mirrored and in reverse, was repeating itself over and over and over again, in bright blue smears all over my sheets. Wow. Oh well. Fuck it. I knew my sheets were stained and ruined for life. No, not the types of stains that you jerk-offs were thinking of, you sick fucks. And I felt as if something just wasn't adding up. Maybe this guy doesn't really know what he's talking about. I wonder. I had assumed that some of the ointment was obviously going to rub off throughout the night. I figured that I'd have to wash my sheets later on, but that was to be expected. No big deal. I never expected that it would actually pull out some of the fresh ink. I had thought the ink was set in there, like over, done, finished, permanent, end of story. But I guess not. At the time, I didn't understand the simple science behind a tattoo's natural healing process. I didn't understand that by applying all of that excess ointment, combined with the fact that the tattoo was covered, and also combined with the fact that you sweat while you sleep, which causes your pores to open up, along with tons of other variables, which we will discuss later, that any type of predicament such as this could have ever happened. Yo, man, fuck this shit. I'm gonna call that fucking shop and ask him what the fuck is up. I phoned the tattoo parlor in Hollywood later that afternoon and asked for the manager, so as to inquire him about a few of my concerns. The manager of the shop informed me that the person who did my tattoo was the quote-unquote new guy, and that he was still just learning, to which he quickly apologized for. Thanks for mentioning that shit, jackass. The manager of the shop, a much more experienced tattoo artist, then began giving me completely different advice on tattoo aftercare, to which I quickly applied. Later, my tattoo, for what it was, had healed up rather nicely, and without infection. There was a bit of color and/or pigment loss, but the shop manager agreed that he would do some free touch-up work for me later on, after the healing process was fully complete. Fine, whatever. It is what it is. The main lesson that I'm trying to teach you here is that with just a little bit of knowledge, correct knowledge, one can save themselves a ton of problems, especially in the world of tattooing. I mean, really. No one wants to have to sit in traffic to drive from El Segundo all the way out to fucking Hollywood, which can take like an hour and a half or so depending on traffic. LA traffic is a bitch. Just because some fucktard didn't know what the fuck he was doing. Don't just assume that just because someone quote-unquote does tattoos, that person actually knows what the fuck he or she is actually doing. The bottom line, listen to the professionals. Section 1, Aftercare. And voila. Beautiful. Here we are, the final stages of your new masterpiece. Now, I know you're excited, but I want to warn you that if you don't apply the proper aftercare techniques to your tattoo, then your new bright and beautiful masterpiece might just go all to pieces. Punny, right? Okay, for real though. All jokes aside, congratulations. You did it. You thought of an idea. You got up off of the couch and you made it happen. And now, here you are, leaving the shop with that brand new tattoo that you've been thinking and talking about getting for so long. Your idea has finally come into fruition. It's real, it's physical, it's tangible. You can hear it, smell it, see it, taste it, and touch it. It's there for life. But if you want to really preserve your fresh ink so that it will stand the test of time and stay bright, vibrant, and colorful, then we're going to have to sit down and discuss a few technical details. Fun stuff, I know. But trust me, it's worth it. Now, as you've probably noticed already, there are literally tons and tons of people out there running their mouths and trying to give you advice. First things first, I would recommend that you follow my advice and not your friend's advice, who probably only has 3 tattoos. After many, many years of experience in the field of tattooing, along with the fact that I now have over 60 plus tattoos myself at the time of writing, you can be well assured that I myself have been through the natural step-by-step healing process on numerous occasions and have seen it all before. I believe that you will find the information in which I'm going to be presenting to you here very enlightening, very beneficial, and to which I myself believe will definitely aid and assist you in the natural healing process of your new tattoo. My goal here is to give you the best advice that I can, while your goal here should be to follow this advice to the best of your abilities. Because really, why would you want to spend all of this money, sometimes up to several hundred, possibly even several $1,000s, on a tattoo that just ends up peeling and flaking away? All because you were either, one, ignorant of what to do, which is not your fault, because no one has ever taught you this information before. This is not a subject that is taught in school. Or two, because you simply just got lazy and didn't want to take the extra few minutes out of your day so as to apply the proper aftercare procedures. Now, a tattoo normally takes anywhere from between 2 weeks to a month, sometimes even up to a month and a half, to fully heal, depending upon the type of tattoo, style, size, and/or placement. So what does this mean to you? It means that you're going to have to do certain things during this 2 to possibly 6 week time period if you want your tattoo to heal properly. That is, without scabbing up, without losing any of its color and/or pigment, and without infection, etc. But hey, don't worry, fellas. It's not that difficult. In fact, the simple process in which I'm going to reveal to you here, along with the extra tips and techniques that I'm going to talk with you about, are all really quite easy to follow and implement once you really begin to understand the big picture. Time to wrap it up. Typically, after the completion of a new tattoo, your artist will wipe the tattoo down with an interesting smelling green liquid known as green soap. The artist will then apply a very thin layer of Vaseline or an antibacterial ointment, such as A&D Original Ointment, or something similar along those lines, and will then simply bandage it up. Depending upon the size of the tattoo, this may be done with a simple gauze bandage, or multiple bandages and medical tape. Every artist has their own method, but this is by far the most common. I lived in northern England for a year. My ex-wife is British, and this wrapping method was done there in shops as well. I also have other friends from around the globe who have all confirmed to me that this is a typical procedure for shops in their areas as well. It may possibly be an OSHA regulation, or something to that extent, but I don't know for certain, nor do I really care. It does seem to be a universal procedure, but in actuality, your tattoo doesn't need to be wrapped up after its completion. Personally, I found it to be more of a hassle than anything. Now, most people want to rip the bandage off right away, as everyone, especially the younger crowd, tends to get super excited because they want to take tons and tons of selfies for their Facebooks and Instagrams, etc. Technically, you should wait at least a few hours or so. But, as mentioned before, you don't really have to. You can take the wrap off right away if you want to. The only reason why I would recommend keeping the wrap on is that it will help to protect your damaged and/or traumatized skin, and it will stop the lymphatic fluid in blood and/or plasma from continuing to flow. When a wrap is applied over the tattoo, these fluids will have a place to drain out and collect in the bandage. When doing so, you will notice that it will usually take about an hour or so until the blood begins to clot. At that point, you will then notice that the fluid dries out and begins to form a scab. Note: after a few hours, make sure to remove the bandage. Remember, if you choose to keep the wrap on for a while, make sure that you do not leave it on for too long, as you will come to find that this is actually counterproductive to the natural healing process, as we will discuss shortly. Warning: keeping a tight wrap on your skin for more than 8+ hours can possibly lead to skin rashes, irritation, or other localized bacterial infections. The wrap is placed there simply to temporarily protect your tattoo while the natural body fluids are draining out. After that time, the natural exposure to air and/or oxygen is needed so as to help your skin begin to heal properly. Question: what happens if I work day to day in an environment where I have to deal with things such as dirt, grease, and/or other contaminants? Answer: if you do work in this type of environment, then I would recommend that you cover up your tattoo with regular loose-fitting clothing, rather than using a new bandage. Once you have gotten home and removed the bandage, hop into the shower and clean off your new tattoo well, using an antibacterial soap, organic if possible, and lukewarm water. Note: do not scrub your tattoo. Note: do not use a washcloth or anything abrasive. Be gentle. Your tattoo is not as delicate as you might think, but still, don't get all fucking crazy with it. Wash your tattoo thoroughly. Rub over the top of it with your hand and try to remove any excess ink or dried blood and/or fluid, plasma, stencil ink, etc. Be sure to remove the residue of any Vaseline or any other ointments that may have been applied. If your tattoo is larger or in a difficult location on the body, such as behind the knee, etc., removing the plastic cling film, if any was used, can be more easily done by letting it loosen up so that it will slip off naturally while in the shower. When showering, remember to keep the water temperature lukewarm. Do not shower in hot water. Hot water will hurt. Remember that the tattooed area is an open wound. A lot of people don't really realize this. Many people would describe this freshly tattooed area similar to the feeling of wrecking on a motorcycle and getting road rash, meaning that it's like a giant scab. If you scraped yourself, you would want to wash it off, but you would not want to put it directly under a stream of hot water, as obviously that would cause it to sting. You would want to wash it off, but you would want to do so indirectly. Remember, when showering, do not hold your tattoo directly under the shower water. Rather, you would want to allow the shower water to run indirectly over your body to wash your tattoo. Note: again, make sure that your shower water is not too hot. Hot water will not only hurt, as mentioned before, but it will also begin to create heavy amounts of steam. Steam, like hot water, will cause your skin's pores to open up, and this may cause greater damage or loss of color and/or pigment. When you were younger, your parents may have told you that after using a jacuzzi, to jump into a cold pool so as to close up your pores, as open pores can attract airborne pathogens. Before exiting the shower, make sure to turn the temperature to ice cold, or as cold as you can withstand, and let the water run indirectly over your new tattoo for about 30 to 45 seconds. This process will help to close up the body's pores and may also prevent any infections from any airborne pathogens. This process will also help to prevent any further fluid drainage. After you get out of the shower, simply pat the tattooed area dry with a fresh, soft, and clean cloth towel. Again, the key word here is gently. More about open pores. A fresh tattoo, as mentioned before, is actually an open wound. This means that it can be subject to the possibility of infection. But with good hygiene, there is really no danger of ending up with any serious infections. The problem, though, is that most people tend to continuously over-apply oily and petroleum-based ointments to their tattoos. Unfortunately, this is actually counterproductive to the tattoo's natural healing process. Now, you might think that throwing on gobs of ointment will make your tattoo heal faster. Makes sense, right? Wrong. Unfortunately, what you don't realize is that these oily and/or petroleum-based products will actually clog up your pores and prevent your skin from breathing. Funny enough, when you do this, you are actually suffocating the wound, which will undoubtedly prolong the tattoo's natural healing process. And what's even worse is that some of these oily products have been known to pull out minute amounts of ink and/or color pigment from the skin. This can contribute to a loss of color and vibrancy in your new tattoo. More on how to apply ointments in Section 2. Please, read on. Section 2. The first week. Let's keep it clean. Okay. I know. Sure. This is stating the obvious here. But again, remember to keep it clean. Especially for at least the first few days or so. Until your skin has transitioned through its natural healing process, you will need to keep a sharp eye on things. You have to remember that your tattoo is an open wound. Most people don't realize this, so please, be cautious. Make sure that you keep up a conscious effort in avoiding contacting your freshly tattooed skin with any person, place, thing, etc. that may contain bacteria. Things like letting your pet lick on your freshly tattooed skin. Pets will naturally be attracted to the odor in which the tattoo may be presenting. I've heard of this being done before, and just the mere thought of it grossed me out. People need to remember that pets clean their own assholes with their tongues. And then they want to let that same pet's tongue lick their open wound? Why don't you just scrub some cat shit into your tattoo while you're at it? Dumb fucks? Seriously? WTF. Along those same lines, try not to touch your tattoo yourself, especially if you haven't washed your hands. If you're going out to the club for a drink, try not to lean your tattoo on the bar counter. If your tattoo is on your arm and/or elbow, etc. During supper time, don't go leaning your tattoo on the surface of your dining room table. If you're at work, try not to rest your tattoo on your desk. If it's date night, and you're going out to the movies, for example, don't rest your tattoo on the dirty theater seats. If you're going out to a concert, make sure you're not leaning up on the barricade in front of the stage. Make sure to be especially careful in watching out for germ-infested handrails leading up and down stairways, walkways, banisters, or escalator railings, etc. To wrap or rewrap? That is the question. Once you've gotten home, showered up, and dried off, by patting the tattoo dry by the use of a clean and sterile towel, tattoo aftercare is relatively simple after that. Remember, do not reapply your already used gauze and/or bandage. Doing so is completely unsanitary and may also cause infection. Also, do not apply a new bandage either. Let me say that to you again. just in case you missed what I said the first time, because this is so important. Do not apply a new bandage either. Applying a new bandage or gauze wrap may possibly lead to the material sticking to your skin, especially right after your first shower. You will notice that as you begin to finish pat drying off your tattoo, that the tattoo will still be soft and moist. The tattoo will scab over in time, but right now, if you apply another wrap on top of it, the tattoo will simply bond to the new wrap, and upon the removal of the second wrap, I can guarantee you, as I've seen this happen 1,000 times before, that some of the color and or ink will go along with it, and it will sting. The wrap will actually rip apart your newly healing skin. If you don't follow this most important piece of advice, and this happens, you will then be forced to have to 1, still wait around another month or so until your tattoo heals, and then 2, make yet another appointment with your artist in order to handle the now well-needed touch-up work. Or as I like to call it, the second coat. So, revamping on that yet again, one more time, do not, I repeat, do not apply a new bandage. What in the fuck do I put on this thing? Note, there is no one single remedy, magic lotion, magic pill, etc., that is used within our industry to help heal your tattoo. Humankind has been practicing the art of tattooing since the dawn of time. There have been many scientific studies, some even dating way back to the days of ancient cave-dwelling people. Many of these studies have found reports of these prehistoric tattoo gurus using such healing remedies on their people as aloe vera juice and other plants that they believed may have contained healing and medicinal properties. In actuality, a person can simply wash off their tattoo with antibacterial soap and water, and then just leave it alone for 2 weeks. The wound will heal, just as any other wound does. That is what the body is naturally designed to do, heal itself. Though most likely, the image may come out slightly distorted, or the color may appear to be washed out. The purpose of proper aftercare is so that we can maintain the tattoo's image and or structure, brightness and color, thus helping to keep the tattoo vibrant and beautiful for many years to come. Some artists will advise you to just keep it simple and just use a cotton ball and rub some rubbing alcohol on it. The problem here is that rubbing alcohol is designed to draw out from the wound. Drawing out in this sense would mean drawing out some of the color pigment, which may cause the tattoo to end up with a dingy-like and or smoky appearance, rather than one that is sharp, crisp, and vibrant. Some artists will even insist on using Preparation H, Neosporin, cocoa butter, bacitracin, or other things of that nature. Again, not the best idea. For example, one will find that in this industry, that many tattoo artists will, and oftentimes recommend, or sometimes even insist, Neosporin. Now, one would think that Neosporin would heal a new tattoo rather quickly. And you're right, it will. But the problem here is that Neosporin will actually do the job too well. I have seen many tattoos that were healed by the use of Neosporin. I've even used Neosporin myself a few times, just to see what happens. And I must say, of all of the tattoos that I've seen that were healed by the use of Neosporin, most had ended up with a lot of color loss. Not all the time, but way too often. So beware. Neosporin has a lot of zinc added into it, and it also contains petroleum. When Neosporin is applied over a fresh tattoo, it helps it to heal too fast, and often ends up pulling out some of the color and/or ink from your skin, rather than allowing your body to lock the ink in at a cellular level. Don't get it twisted. There are tons and tons of products out there that are marketed directly for tattoo aftercare. For example, while perusing through a tattoo parlor, or Amazon.com, or another place one may purchase tattoo supplies, one may see such products or brand names as Tattoo Goo, Black Cat, Inkies, H2 Ocean, Inkflex, amongst various others. These products may look good. They may have fancy labels on them. They may look cool. And they may have even been seen and/or heard and/or used in many various tattoo parlors and even television shows. But the problem here is that these products are really just marketing hype. If you were to actually read the ingredients on the labels of these brand name aftercare products, you would quickly come to notice that these products actually contain the same ingredients as the over-the-counter ointments, which would actually cost you just a fraction of the price. Now, I may be revealing a bit too much of the game right here, and I may even make a few enemies with the next bit of information that I'm going to reveal to you here. But when these items are sold in tattoo parlors by an artist that recommends them, 9 times out of 10, that artist is only doing so because he or she is actually getting paid a small amount of commission from selling that particular product. Remember, don't be fooled by fancy labels and/or marketing hype. Read the ingredients on the label. Personally, I use and recommend only one product during the healing process: Aquaphor. I have used Aquaphor before plenty of times on myself, and I have recommended it to clients of mine on numerous occasions. Note, I am not sponsored or endorsed by Aquaphor. This is just my personal recommendation to you, the reader. I have personally watched many of my clients use only Aquaphor on the tattoos that I had done on them, applied between 1 to 3 times per day for approximately 10 days. All of their tattoos had turned out bright and shiny, just the way that they wanted them to, and they were all 100% satisfied. Aquaphor is a bit thicker of a product, and a little more expensive, but it's more than worth it. And it will help heal your tattoo much faster, as it contains many healing and medicinal properties. Now, to lower your cost even more, do I have your attention yet? Good. Read on. One will find that just as there are brand name products out there, that there are also generic brands as well. Aquaphor has a generic version that is called Equate, which is sold at many different stores. Equate is the exact same thing as Aquaphor, but it is bottled in an alternate packaging. Just as there is brand name Vicodin, which can be sold as its generic hydrocodone, or brand name Tylenol, which can be sold as its generic acetaminophen. Now, if however you find that you are sensitive to Aquaphor and/or Equate type products, as everyone's skin will have different levels of sensitivity, my second personal recommendation would be Lubriderm. Lubriderm is a smooth and creamy-like skin lotion, rather than an ointment, which I have personally used myself on several different occasions before I began using Aquaphor and/or Equate. When it all comes down to it, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, that's all you really need. Aquaphor or Lubriderm. That's it. If you got a tattoo from me, then I know for a fact that I recommended to you one of these 2 products. If you decide to use something other than what I've recommended to you here, then you do so at your own risk. You do not, by any means, need to use these products in which I am recommending to you here, as you can use whatever products you like. But whichever lotion you choose to use, it should at least be dye and fragrance free, organic if possible. Remember, I have spent years and years researching tattoos and tattoo aftercare so that you don't have to. Just do yourself a favor. Try not to be a know-it-all and listen to your artist. Otherwise, you may run the risk of your tattoo not healing properly or not coming out as bright or as vibrant as you would have liked it to do so. Don't rub it all in. Remember, all you're trying to do here is moisturize your skin and keep it clean. Take a small amount of Aquaphor or Lubriderm and then gently, let me say that again, gently rub it in. You only need a thin coat of Aquaphor. Do not cake it on or throw on gobs and gobs. Your skin still needs to breathe in order to heal properly. You don't want to apply too much product, as then you run the risk of suffocating the tattoo. Remember, you should be reapplying a thin coat of Aquaphor about 1 to 3 times daily, dependent upon the size and/or location of your tattoo. Note, also, if your tattoo looks dried out, then go ahead and reapply a small amount of ointment. And again, after you shower, don't forget to reapply it. Personally, I live in the city of Las Vegas. The temperature here can reach up to 122 degrees Fahrenheit, and I may have to shower up to 5 times per day, sometimes even more. Occasionally, I will get a new tattoo from one of my fellow artists, or perhaps even do a new one on myself. It is in fact quite common for me to be reapplying a small amount of Aquaphor after every shower that I take. Some of my clients have come from different parts of the world, where many climates can vary. For example, one of my clients was from the southern parts of the United States, and he was in Las Vegas on his summer vacation. After a bit of liquid courage, my client, feeling courageous enough, had apparently mustered up the balls to finally get a tattoo, and somehow managed to hit me up on my Facebook. My client was flying back home the following day to a place of utmost humidity. He had mentioned to me that he would sometimes be forced to shower 5 to 10 times per day and would still be walking around drenched. Myself, having also lived in Washington, D.C., Chicago, Florida, and New York at various points in my younger life, was definitely able to relate to this predicament. I advised my client the same thing in which I have ever advised anyone else. I told him, don't worry, everything will be okay. Whenever you feel the need to shower, just go ahead and wash yourself, rinse off, remember to pat dry your tattoo, and simply reapply a small bit of ointment. Remember, as said before, your tattoo is not as delicate as you might think that it is. You can apply product in the shower, and then reapply it again as many times as needed. Though obviously, the less that you have to do this, the better. Hey, life isn't perfect, man. Sometimes shit happens. It might get hot outside and you might need to shower off the sweat. You might be eating breakfast and then, all of a sudden, oops, you spill your bowl of Lucky Charms and milk all over yourself and you need to shower and change clothes. You might have forgot your umbrella and then come to find out that it's pouring fucking rain outside. You might try to run home, but then end up getting soaked and need to rinse off in the shower right after you finished applying product. It happens. No big deal. Just reapply more product and keep moving forward. What about this spot? In certain areas, such as your joints, the backside of your knee, the inside of your elbow, your shoulder blades, etc., or any other area where your skin may stretch repeatedly throughout the day, tattoos can sometimes be really difficult to heal. One tattoo that I did happened to be directly inside of my client's arm, on the crook of his elbow. My client was a health nut and worked out in a gym at least 2 times per day, and had given me a call complaining that every time he was doing his bicep curls that his tattoo would crack, and he didn't know whether or not to continually reapply the Aquaphor that I'd recommended to him. Now, in a perfect world, the best thing that my client could have done for his tattoo would have been to just skip the gym for the next 2 to 3 weeks until his tattoo was fully healed. But for him, that was not an option. So, that being the case, I had advised my client to not worry about it and to finish his workout routine. Upon the completion of my client's workout routine, I had advised him to shower up and wash over his tattoo with his hand, lightly, so as to remove any sweat, dirt, bacteria, etc. And then to just simply apply another thin coat. After 2 weeks had passed by, my client's tattoo had healed perfectly. If you find yourself at a point where this becomes an issue, you are most likely better off simply reapplying more Aquaphor and keeping it slightly over-moisturized. But at the same time, you may want to not reapply it every time, and to instead just go ahead and give it a few hours of dry out time. Because too much ointment will, again, suffocate the tattoo and could also draw out some of the color. Sometimes you just can't win either way. Don't worry, it'll all be okay. That being said, remember, everyone's skin is slightly different. Everyone, as mentioned before, will have different levels of skin sensitivity, healing time, levels of which they can take and or withstand pain, and other things of that nature. Always do what you think is best for you. But if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to consult your artist immediately. Remember, no question is a dumb question. Your artist is there to help. And again, if you suspect that you might be having any kind of an allergic reaction or some other type of medical emergency, then please contact your doctor or physician immediately. The worst thing that a person could do would be to simply do nothing, possibly then harboring a bad situation into an even worse one. If you're confused about something, it's really best to just give someone a quick call and get the answers in which you're seeking. Perhaps you develop a unique situation, or even some kind of serious infection. It might just be nothing, but wouldn't it be better just to check up and see? Don't be a dumb monkey. A quick call never hurt anybody. Be smart. Be safe. This is your body, your health, and possibly even your life that we're talking about here. Getting geared up. The first thing that you are going to want to do is to get together some loose-fitting clothing, something that will not rub against your tattoo, especially during the first 2 to 3 days of healing. In all honesty, it's better to keep your freshly tattooed skin exposed to the air during the healing process as much as possible. You have to remember that ointments and lotions are greasy. If you can stay bare, all the better, as grease may stain your clothing. Personally, I don't ever like to cover up a new tattoo with any type of clothing. I'd rather just throw on some ointment, rice the fuck out of it, and just chillax out in front of my laptop watching YouTube videos. But unfortunately, I know that sometimes you just don't have a choice. Sometimes bullshit just arises out of nowhere. Work, family emergencies, special engagements, special events, your in-laws show up to town unannounced, etc. One of the most uncomfortable experiences that I've ever had with tattoos is when I've had to dress up and go to work. Being a life coach and/or relationship guru, another business venture of mine besides tattooing, I will usually tend to dress up wearing a suit and tie when dealing with clients. The biggest problem here is that whatever goo that I have on me, usually Aquaphor as mentioned before, may cause the clothing over the tattoo to stick to it, which will then 1, stain my clothing with ink and/or grease, and 2, later on when I get home, as I try to remove the clothing, it will usually pull apart some of the scab, which can easily cause even more ink and/or color loss. To avoid this problem, likened to the issue that I had mentioned previously within the prologue section of this book about the ink stains on my sheets, I have found that washing off the ointment before covering the area with clothing, or before bed where the tattooed area may possibly come in contact with your sheets, blankets, pillows, etc., and just giving the tattoo some dry out time will quickly eliminate this issue in its entirety. I wish my first artist would have mentioned that one before that first issue. You will tend to notice your tattoo flaking, just a bit, as you give it some dry out time, just for a few hours. Seriously, it won't damage your tattoo. If anything, by preventing it from sticking to your clothing and your sheets, etc., it's going to heal even better. Note: to put things into the simplest of terms, try and avoid any type of tight clothing that may possibly stick to or bond to your new tattoo. If you do have to cover that area for some time, as you are at work, etc., just go dry for a while, and then reapply your ointment once you can uncover the area. Time to hit the showers, boys. You can relax now. Showering is absolutely okay. Getting your tattoo wet is perfectly okay. You just don't want to soak the thing. Personally, I would advise you to take a normal 15-minute shower, or as long as you would like, washing your hair and your body as you normally would. The only thing that you are going to be wanting to do differently is that when it comes to your tattoo, try not to expose it directly under the shower spray, as mentioned before. Also, try to shower in lukewarm water rather than hot water, as hotter temperatures will sting your newly tattooed area. When showering, simply wash off your tattoo with an antibacterial soap, organic if possible, and allow the shower water to rinse off the soapy area indirectly. Again, after you finish your shower, dry your tattoo off by patting it gently with a clean towel. Seriously, I cannot overemphasize this principle. Pat it dry. Do not rub it. Pool party? Unfortunately, oceans, lakes, and rivers are full of bacteria, and swimming pools and/or jacuzzis are full of chlorine. None of these things are really beneficial to prolonging the life of your tattoo. Just like the rules with showering, you don't want to soak your tattoo. Saturating your tattoo with water for any great length of time is horrible. For the time being, you will want to try to avoid any such activities. Also, submerging yourself and your tattoo in the bathtub is not the best idea. Remember, the natural healing process only takes about 2 weeks or so. It's not really all that long. Just chill out on going swimming or hitting up the jacuzzi for a few. Once it's finished, you can then go back to these types of activities. You don't want to lose color in your tattoo for the rest of your life, just for one day at the pool. Other activities. Any highly strenuous activities such as strength training or any contact sports, etc., are, again, some of those things that you will just have to try and avoid for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Any excessive workouts or any activities which would cause a person heavy sweating are just going to have to be kept on the back burner for the next few weeks. Hot saunas, steam rooms, etc. If you're going to engage in any of these types of activities, then please make sure that you take the proper precautions beforehand. Tip: the best thing that you can do is to just try to get a bit of R&R, rest and relaxation. You have your whole life ahead of you to do whatever you want. Take a little time off to allow your tattoo, a thing that's going to be with you for the rest of your life, to heal properly. Catching some Z's. If you remember back to the prologue section of this book, I had mentioned the issue of what happens when you go to bed while still covered in ointment. It can be very messy, so beware. When it comes to sleeping, I have one general routine that I tend to follow religiously, and that is to shower off before bed, removing any ointment, pat the tattoo dry, not still damp, not soft, but dry, and then try as best that I can to not sleep directly on the tattooed area. When I wake up, first thing in the late afternoon, or possibly even the early evening, remember, I'm not a morning person, I will then reapply my ointment before starting my day. Some artists have suggested that sprinkling baby powder onto your sheets before bed will help to protect your tattoo. But personally, I wouldn't recommend it. Just go dry. It's easier and perfectly safe. Another thing you will find is that upon waking up, your tattoo, after about a week's time, will begin looking dry and may appear as if it's cracking. You may notice in your bed small white flakes, like that of dandruff or dried skin. Don't worry, this is just another stage in the healing process. If you happen to wake up and see these small flakes of dried skin in your bed, just use it as a quick morning reminder, after you get up and get showered, to put on some ointment. As said before, it's good to go dry for a while, but not too long. You've slept. Now grease up and go about your business. Tat sheets. Now, you will sweat throughout the night. That's just a fact of life. What this means is that you will lose a minute amount of ink regardless, but you can prevent any loss and/or damage to your good set of sheets by simply buying a special set of tat sheets. If you are going to be getting a lot of ink work done, then it may be in your best interest to purchase an extra set of black sheets for use while your tattoos are still in the healing process. You can buy a pair of black sheets from Walmart for under $7, a very wise investment. Once your tattoo is healed, simply wash, dry, and fold up your tat sheets, and then store them in your linen closet until your next session. Catching some rays. Yeah. Can we say, ouch? One of the reasons I may cover up a client's tattoo after he leaves is to stop its exposure to direct sunlight. Direct sunlight is horrible for your new tattoo, and for your already healed ones as well. I've walked outside myself after just getting inked up, just to see what it was like. Yeah, not the business. The sunlight will sting and/or burn the tattooed area. If you tend to spend a lot of your time out in the sun, over time, your tattoo will begin to fade. Not within a week's time, but over the course of the next few years. To keep your tattoos looking their best, try to keep out of direct sunlight and/or prolonged exposure to the sun. More on prolonging the life of your tattoo later. Sunscreen. Personally, I would never recommend the use of any sunscreen or sunblock. Most people are unaware that it is actually sunscreen that causes skin cancer, not the sun itself. Read the ingredients. Sunscreens are full of toxic poisons. It is a scam. Sunscreen may help to prevent a sunburn today, but it may cause many skin problems down the road. But, for the time being, using sunscreen in minute amounts while your tattoo is healing, if you must be out in the sun, is definitely a good idea. Personally, I live in Las Vegas. The climate here is direct sunlight, sometimes in excess of 120 degrees Fahrenheit throughout most of the year, and I never use sunscreen. Scabbing, peeling, and flaking. Do not pick at your new tattoo. Let me say that again. Do not, can you hear me clearly? Pick at your new tattoo. You will begin to notice, after about 2 to 3 days or so, that during the natural healing process, the scab will begin to start shedding. This is perfectly normal. You will also begin to notice that the tattooed area may begin to feel a bit itchy. The advice here, don't pick. And don't fucking scratch it either. If your skin itches, then simply pat it. Gently. Some artists will insist that you slap it. Again, not really the best idea. Other artists have suggested applying a bit of rubbing alcohol or other alcohol-based products, that is, Listerine, Scope, Bactine, etc., in order to help temporarily relieve the itching and/or irritation. Personally, I wouldn't. Again, just pat the area a bit. I know it's annoying, but your tattoo will be healed soon enough, and then you can scratch that area to your heart's content. Remember, if you notice that your skin is peeling, then you need to apply more Aquaphor and/or Lubriderm and/or lotion, etc. on it. Heavy scabbing. As mentioned before, there are certain areas of the body which may, despite your best efforts, end up with some amount of heavy and/or heavier scabbing. For example, on the crook of your elbow and/or knee and/or shoulder blades, etc. The constant movements of your body, rubbing and/or friction, etc., within these types of areas can make it exceedingly more difficult for the tattooed skin to heal up properly. At first, you may end up with some heavy scabbing, though only for a time. It will heal eventually, so don't worry. One particular case I had witnessed was after I'd worked on a client's leg tattoo. My client had later returned to show me his leg, which was completely scabbed over, and he was asking my advice as to what he should do. Note, my client had also admitted to me that he was not regularly applying the Aquaphor in which I had recommended to him either. I first had my client lift up his pants leg so as to give his heavily scabbed area a quick look-see. I didn't notice any redness or swelling present, and to the best of my knowledge, I had concluded that the area wasn't in fact infected. I then advised him to go home and hydrate the area in a warm bath. Note, another exception to the rules, though only for a very short period of time, 10 to 15 minutes maximum. And to then, afterwards, pat the tattoo down with a clean towel and to apply a thicker coat of Aquaphor. In performing this action, my client was quickly able to soften the hard scab that had formed over his tattoo, thereby causing some of the scab's harder outer layers to wear away, thinning the scab out just a bit, while still preventing much color loss. Now, here's the kicker. Had this process been done any other way, that is, soaking the tattoo and then peeling it off, etc., it may have resulted in not only a loss of color pigment, but may have also been quite painful, and quite possibly could have even led to permanent scarring. Ironically enough, sometimes the removal of some of this heavy scabbing will actually result in an overall better healing of the rest of the tattoo. Worst case scenario when dealing with heavy scabbing is that you may, if you notice after the tattoo is fully healed that there has been a significant amount of color loss, need to call up your artist so as to set up a second appointment so that he or she can go back and do some touch-up work. Or, as I said before, what I like to refer to as the second coat. Redness and swelling. You may feel as if your tattoo, or the area surrounding your tattoo, is sore. It may feel heavy. You might visibly see a bit of redness and/or swelling. The area might burn or sting a bit. It might feel as if someone hit you or physically punched you in that area. It may feel sore, similar in the fashion as when your muscles become sore after an extensive workout at the gym. It may even throb a bit. Don't worry. All of these symptoms are completely normal. If you notice an extensive level of redness around your tattoo or the tattooed area, it does not mean in any way whatsoever that your tattoo is infected. You do not have to rush off to the emergency room. Relax. I've had a couple of first-time clients call me up 2 to 3 days after getting tattooed, complaining that their tattoo was quote-unquote infected, and were wondering whether or not they should go to the ER. The answer is no. Just relax. The redness that you are seeing is part of the skin's natural healing process. What you are seeing is an excess amount of blood that has risen up toward the surface area. It is needed in order to help begin healing up the open wound. Rubbing alcohol. If you want to tone down the redness just a bit, just for your own personal peace of mind, you can rub some rubbing alcohol in the tattooed area using a cotton ball. This will usually tone down the redness and will also kill off any bacteria. Do keep in mind, though, that when performing this technique, that rubbing alcohol is designed to pull and/or draw out things from a wound, which can possibly lead to permanent ink damage and/or color loss. A few people that I know who are really into tattoos and who have used this rubbing alcohol technique in the past have admitted to me that their tattoos have ended up slightly faded. I have even experimented with rubbing alcohol myself. After my tattoos had fully healed, I would describe them as having a smoked or dingy-like appearance. Lucky for me, I was able to just call up a fellow artist and have him touch it up for me, as fellow artists will commonly do for one another within this industry. For regular people, though, to fix this issue could possibly cost them hundreds of dollars. That being the case, I would advise against using rubbing alcohol during the healing process of your tattoo. Bruising. If you begin to notice a bit of bruising or discoloration, colors such as blue, black, purple, yellow, green, etc., again, remember, this is perfectly normal. Every person's skin has different levels of sensitivity. Some people just bruise easier than others. Sometimes, bruising, in this fashion, may take some time to heal. For some people, it may take an entire month to heal, while others, it may take up to 3+ months, and sometimes, possibly even longer. Now, if however 6+ months have passed by, and your tattoo still looks as if it is discolored or darker in appearance around the area where the line should have stopped, this is what is known as being blown out, or the lines are blown out. What happened here is that your tattoo artist was not tattooing that particular point of the tattoo at the correct angle. Unfortunately, there is no way to fix this problem, except by tattooing something else over the top of that area. For example, you may want to smoke it out, or add clouds, or something similar of that nature using a gray wash. Most likely, in order to fix this particular issue, as some people are perfectionists, and it is your body, so in which you do have a right to be, you may just have to add something big and black over the top of the blown out area so as to cover it up. Hopefully not a cock, unless you're into that sort of thing. And, well, if that's the case, then hey, do your thing, player. Icing your tattoo. If it is really just a bit of bruising, then you are more than welcome to simply ice your tattoo in order to try and reduce some of the swelling. To ice your tattoo, simply use a cold press, an ice pack, or even just a Ziploc bag full of ice cubes, and/or frozen fruits and vegetables, and water. You can even use an ice-cold can of beer and hold it on top of the bruised and/or swollen area. Remember, when icing your tattoo, or any other bump, bruise, swollen area, etc., to only do so in 5 to 15-minute increments. This means that you will want to ice it for 5 to 15 minutes, and then leave it alone for 5 to 15 minutes, and then repeat. You are more than welcome to do this process as many times as needed until you feel either more comfortable or until the swelling resides. Elevation. Another thing that may help you relieve the swelling is to elevate your tattoo. For example, if the tattoo is on your leg, then simply lie down on the couch and prop your leg up with a pillow as you ice it. Also see rice. You may even want to take some pain relief medications or some anti-inflammatories. Rice. Rest, ice, compress, elevate. The acronym RICE is so important. RICE is an acronym for Rest, Ice, Compress, Elevate. To rice your tattoo, you do simply that. Rest, ice, compress, and elevate. You can rice your tattoo at any time throughout the healing process. It will not damage it whatsoever. Personally, I like to rice my tattoos, mostly during the first 2 to 3 days.
That is the time frame where your new tattoo will be the most swollen and/or the most painful.
When I rice my tattoos, I like to use an ice pack. You can easily purchase one at Walmart for under $2. After I have my ice pack, I then set out for myself a platter of ice cream, potato chips, or any other types of snack foods that I'm in the mood for. Possibly even a 6-pack of beer. Maybe more. Load myself up a fat bowl of chronic in my water bong, and then just veg out on the couch for a few hours while watching YouTube video playlists of my favorite posted material. Infections. Ew, gross. Infections, oddly enough, are the last thing in which we're going to discuss in this section, but the topic is definitely one of utmost importance. While infections are actually not very common, they are still, however, a possibility, and you do need to be knowledgeable of them. When we talk about infections, we are not just talking about a bit of bacteria on a needle that has ended up there because the artist forgot to wash his or her hands. When we're talking about infections, we, as professionals, are more referring to things such as HIV and/or AIDS, hepatitis, MRSA, staph infections,
Mycobacterium, Haemophilus and/or Shilanae, and other things likened to that nature.
Sometimes, even the most skilled artists can end up sticking themselves with a needle by accident. Gloves can provide some protection, but I have personally seen one artist I had been working with stick himself while he was tattooing me. Sometimes freak accidents just happen to occur. For example, one time while in a shop, a young man burst through the front door and shouted out, "What up, dog?" This action startled my artist, as he was in the zone, and there was no prior warning. My artist then, whilst in the midst of tattooing, recoiled his right hand, which was holding the gun, causing him to poke himself with a needle on his opposite forearm. Ouch. Now, personally, I don't have anything, but he doesn't fucking know that. After that, my artist was forced to change the needle that he was using. But what if he didn't? What if he just decided not to say anything, and it just continued tattooing me? Would I have ever known the difference? Probably not. But what if he had something? What if he had AIDS? It's the little things like these that can be so dangerous, because these are the types of things that can happen in the world of tattooing. So, how can you tell if your tattoo is infected? Well, some key signals that a tattoo may be infected could be a reddish color surrounding the tattooed area for any extensive amount of time. Not the first 2 to 3 days. But if you still notice that that area is really red days and days later, yeah, you might have a problem. You may notice a bit, or an excessive amount, of yellow or green pus that is oozing outwards from the area. You may notice a funny odor or a foul scent. You may notice that if you were to touch the area, that it would be excessively more warm, possibly even hot, likened to the experience of touching someone's forehead while they have a fever. You may notice excessive swelling or discoloration. You may suffer excessive pain. You may become sick or experience any multitude of other signs and/or symptoms, etc. Note: remember, this is not a medical guide. This is a guide on tattoo aftercare. If you notice any of these types of signs and/or symptoms, then please contact your doctor or physician immediately. Try to keep in mind, if you do suffer from an infection, that it may not be entirely your fault. It is possible for you, as well as your tattoo artist, to do everything perfectly, and you may still end up with an infection. That's just life. And, as many of us artists will agree, sometimes it's just part of the whole tattooing experience. If you do end up getting an infection, it's not the end of the world. At the end of the day, all we can really do is to be as safe and as clean and as professional as we can in order to help prevent any of these types of issues from occurring. Red dye reaction. There is a small percentage of people who do end up with something called red dye reaction. Usually people who have a very high level of skin sensitivity. If you're one of those people who find that they are usually allergic to cheap metal jewelry or other things of that nature, this can be an early warning sign for a potential future problem. Cheap metal, such as fake and/or faux gold chains, are usually crafted with an extensive amount of nickel in them. Many red tattoo inks have nickel in them as well, and sometimes the red ink will not heal very easily. If you feel that you might have a nickel allergy, then please let your artist know as soon as possible so as to take the proper precautions. To avoid this problem early on, you may want to either 1, choose a different colored ink for that area, or 2, just try to find an organic substitute ink that is nickel-free. Just as many conventional foods use chemicals such as red dye number 5 or red dye number 40 to give things such as peppermint its bright red color, organic foods will typically use organic fruit and/or vegetable juices for color, which is obviously much healthier for you. In general, anything organic is usually going to be better for your overall health and wellness, and will also be safer for either consumption or for use to put in your skin. Feel free to do a very small test spot, and then wait to finish your tattoo until it's fully healed. You can always tattoo over the top of your test spot with a darker colored ink if your skin doesn't take the red. Section 3. Prolonging the life of your tattoo. Reapplying product. After your tattoo has fully healed, if you're really worried about the color of your tattoo, then feel free to apply a bit of product every few weeks or so, possibly even every couple of months. I have noticed some clients to be very picky about their work. People have mentioned to me on numerous occasions that they will typically, just as part of their everyday regime, apply just a bit of product. Obviously, this is not necessary. Now, if you're going to be out and about in the hot sun on any particular day, then guess what? It still doesn't matter. It's just one day. But if you, for example, work construction and are on a job site that is outside in a place where the sun will be in direct contact with your tattoo for 8 to 12 plus hours of the day, for a period of 6 plus months or so, then yes, you may want to use some of the techniques we spoke about earlier in this section on sunscreen. If you don't want to use sunscreen, or don't want to have to deal with putting on product and enduring the mess and/or greasiness of it on your skin, then just go ahead and put on a layer of clothing over the top of it so as to cover it up. Weight gain and/or weight loss. A few things to keep in mind when getting a tattoo is to take into consideration whether or not you will be either gaining or losing weight. Personally, I have never noticed a person's tattoos to change all that much due to either gaining or losing weight. I was 220 plus pounds myself at one point, and have since lost over 70 plus pounds, and I've never noticed any significant difference in the appearance of any of my tattoos. I have, however, seen a girl get pregnant who had recently gotten a tattoo on her stomach area. As she moved through her pregnancy, her tattoo did stretch quite a bit. After she had delivered the baby, she did hit the Stairmaster hard, and managed to lose the weight she had put on. But she did end up getting a few stretch marks. The stretch marks had ruined part of her tattoo. The color was just gone, leaving the tattoo broken-like in appearance. This is just something to be aware of, because again, life happens. What about strength training? In regards to strength training, unless you're at a point where today you're under 100 pounds and you plan on becoming Arnold Schwarzenegger and putting on 200 plus pounds of pure lean muscle, then you really have nothing to worry about. Lift weights, grow strong, relax, have fun. You won't damage or stretch out your tattoo. What if I get fat? Life happens. Sometimes we get older, we gain weight, our metabolism changes. Shit happens. I would recommend to you to try and stay as fit and as healthy as you can. Live a life of proper diet and nutrition, and try to always stay active. I know sometimes we all get stuck at the office and only have 30 minutes to break, and all that's nearby is a fucking Mickey D's. It happens. Your tattoo isn't going to stretch out unless you end up adding on like 200 plus pounds or so. Fat does not all store in one single area. When your body stores fat, it is spread out all over your body, bit by bit. If you end up gaining 20 to 30 pounds or so, don't worry about it. Instead, just hit the track. Not necessarily for your tattoo shape, but rather for your general health and well-being. Let's make it pop. Personally, I have a bright red lipstick kiss tattoo on the right side of my neck. Some people get these types of tattoos for their wives or girlfriends. I got mine more so like a medal and or trophy for my side business. I have a side business where I teach guys how to pick up women, like the movie Hitch starring Will Smith, except 1,000 times more aggressive. I was recently featured on the covers of 2 big magazines here in Las Vegas, Las Vegas' 7 and City Life magazines. I went on a 22-city tour across America where I was able to help thousands of single men and women with dating and relationship advice. Along the way, using my own top-secret tips and techniques, I had also picked up hundreds of women myself. So, all in all, my lipstick kiss tattoo is really there as the mark of a real player in the game. Straight up. Now, before I go out, I like to make it pop by applying a very small amount of Aquaphor Vaseline so that it really stands out. This technique is really fun to do when I'm going out to the club. When using this technique inside of a dark nightclub, a person cannot distinguish the difference whether or not the lipstick kiss is real. Girls will walk up and point at my bright red tattoo and say, "OMG, haha, whose lips are those?" To which I will reply, "Oh man, it's Vegas. There's big mosquitoes out here this time of year," ending the sentence with a wink and spoken in a very flirty and playful-like fashion. Upon delivering my canned response, in which I call intro scripting, the girls will quickly explode into laughter. It's a great icebreaker, and it will usually spark up a fun and interesting conversation there afterwards. Other times, they may just ask me, "Who kissed you right there?" To which I will quickly cut them off and reply, "Yeah, but she only got one side. What's up with that?" The girl will laugh and say, "Yeah, I know, right?" To which I will then reply, as I point firmly at the other side of my neck, "Make me match on this side." And then, just like that, the girl will lean over and give me a real lipstick kiss on the other side of my neck. And after that happens, well, hey, what happens in Vegas? You know the rest. Well, actually these days, anything that happens in Vegas usually just ends up on Facebook. If you have a tattoo and you want to make it pop, simply smear on a small sheen of Aquaphor Vaseline. Remember, you can use Vaseline now at this point because this technique is not part of the healing process. This technique is done only after your tattoo is fully healed. UV protection. As mentioned numerous times before, if you're going to be out in the sun for any elongated amount of time, then you should try to provide some level of protection. Not just for one day, but for an extended period of time. 3 to 6 plus months of heavy exposure daily. Is all this UV protection stuff really all that necessary? Well, here's the real deal. I live out in Las Vegas, a place most plentiful with direct sunlight, sometimes in excess of 120 degrees. By trade, besides my music and my lifestyle and/or dating coaching businesses, I'm a recording and/or theatrical engineer. I work with bands, and I typically work outside in a concert and/or festival type setting, sometimes in excess of 16 plus hours a day. I've done residency tours with Guns N' Roses, Def Leppard, Motley Crue, Kiss, Carlos Santana, Tiesto, and hundreds of other major international musical acts. Some of these concerts are indoors, while others are outside in the hot sun. The truth is, I have never once applied any sunscreen or any other form of protection, and I have never once noticed that any of my tattoos have faded. Oh, and did I also mention that I commute back and forth to work in a convertible? That's how we roll in the West. Yeah, I get a lot of sun exposure to my tattoos. Never had a problem though. Now, for safety's sake, and just for precautionary measures, sure, go ahead and apply some product if it will give you some peace of mind. But it really isn't all that necessary. I've proved it, friends of mine have proved it, but if you feel safer in doing so, then by all means, go for it. No one is going to judge you otherwise. But on the real though, once the tattoo is fully healed, that's most likely how it's going to stay looking for some time. The wheel in the sky keeps on turning. The oldest tattoos that I have on me now are well over 15 years old, and they are still as dark as they were a month after I first got them. I have friends in their late 40s, and even 50s and 60s, who had all gotten tattoos back when they were in their early teens and 20s. Some of their tattoos have faded, just slightly. Others, a lot. While others, not much at all. Remember, everyone's skin is different. Do the best that you can do to take good care of your tattoo. And, as mentioned, now numerous times before, don't worry too much. Your tattoo is not as delicate as you might think that it is. So just relax. Life after death. Most people have the mindset of, I'll have it for the rest of my life, or I'll have it until the day that I die, which is true in a sense. But, interestingly enough, your tattoo doesn't just magically disappear at the moment of your death. Science has now discovered that your tattoo will actually stay on your body even after your death. Crazy, right? Your tattoos will stay on your body until your skin decomposes, which can take 6+ months, or even longer, depending upon how well your body was preserved. Just something interesting to keep in mind. Your family can have it removed, if they like, but it's rather expensive. Remember, that tattoo that you just put on last week is going to be around even longer than you. Eternally inked. Even weirder than the last section, there's now also a new movement being created by a private organization in Europe, which allows family members of the deceased the option to have the corpse's tattooed skin removed from the body, and then, while packaged in formaldehyde, be shipped over to a special lab where pathologists will extract the water and fat cells and replace it with a liquid polymer, typically silicone. This process basically turns the tattooed skin into a plastic-like object, thus preserving it indefinitely. Now, in the same fashion that some families choose to cremate a person's body and keep their ashes stored in an urn on the mantle above the fireplace, they can now also keep an actual piece of the person. The process is rather expensive, but it is being done, meaning that the tattoo that you get today could possibly become immortalized. Just something to think about. Section 4. Final thoughts. My friend. Many clients have come to tell me, my friend told me to do blank, or my friend told me that I should do such and such. I hear this all the time. At this point, I have to then advise my clients and ask them questions such as, has your friend had years and years of experience in this field? Or, has your friend dealt with hundreds of clients and or done hundreds of tattoos on different people? Or, has your friend had over 60 plus tattoos on his own body and learned and or studied and or ever wrote a book on proper tattoo aftercare? Let me think about that. Probably not. That being the case, do not listen to your friend. In life, you should always listen to the people who have what you want. Listen to me, listen to your artist, listen to other professionals within the industry. Do not listen to your friend. Remember, if you feel something is wrong, then please reach out to your artist. Again, everyone's skin is going to be different. Every person has different antibodies running through them. One person may take a certain color ink, while another person's body may simply reject that color altogether. Some people bleed more than others. Some people are more sensitive to pain, etc., 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 etc. Again, this is just my advice. This is advice that I myself have used that have helped my tattoos stay bright, vibrant, and colorful, and has helped myself, along with many of my clients, stay happy, healthy, and satisfied with their new tattoos. Please, have common sense and follow the advice in which I have given to you here. And if you have any questions, please feel free to call either myself or your artist. Remember, there is no such thing as a dumb question. If you don't know, then fucking ask. It really is in your best interest to do so. You don't want to end up with something such as blood poisoning, bacteremia, septicemia, or any other type of nasty infection, or something else of that nature. In closing, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to read this material. By doing so, you are a huge step closer to healing your new tattoo properly. Remember, this is your body we're talking about here. This tattoo is going to be on you for the rest of your life. A new age of tattooing. With prices so affordable now, doing ink work is beginning to become much more common, more so than any other time in human history. Kids as young as 9 and 10 years old can simply use their parents' credit card, order a machine, ink, and a pack of needles from online stores such as Amazon.com or various others, and sit around after school and draw on each other, permanently, for as little as under $10. Being a music artist, I'm heavily involved in things such as social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, etc. Being that I do rap and other various forms of pop music, I deal with most of my fans being between the ages of 7 to 19-ish. I have seen Instagram pictures of 2 13-year-old boys on my followers list who are working on sleeving each other up. They post new pics on my Instagram regularly and will occasionally DM me, direct message, questions, comments, inquiries, etc. on how they can better take care of their tattoos. This happens, guys. This is real life. We live in the real world here, people. I'm not here to tell anyone what they can or can't do with their lives. This is your body. No one has the right to tell you what you can or cannot put on it or into it, or anything else like that. But I do advise any of you doing so to really think about what you're doing, because tattoos are for life. Remember, be conscious of things and take good care of your new tattoo after it's finished. I was recently hanging out at a tattooing session with Albert. It was in the early morning. I was still up from partying the night before with my homegirl. I needed him to do a bit of touch-up work on a tattoo that I had gotten from another artist prior to working with him. Albert had 2 clients that morning, a 60-year-old man and a 16-year-old girl, who had arrived there early with her mother, so as to give Albert her parental consent. Later on that same week, I was clothes shopping at the mall, and out of the corner of my eye, I had noticed a very young girl who, interestingly enough, had 2 stars tattooed on her face, right next to her left eye. I was quite intrigued. The stars looked great, very professionally done, in my opinion. But she was so young looking. Interesting, I thought. I had to find out what had inspired this girl to get a permanent mark on her face at such a very young age. A few kids that I had known back in high school had managed to get a random artist who worked in a shop on the Venice Beach boardwalk to tat them up at 16. But their tattoos were underneath their clothes. This tattoo was on the girl's face. That's a bold statement, I said as I pointed toward the young girl's tattooed stars on her face. Those look tight. Who did those? Oh, I got these last year when I was 13. My friend from school did them, she told me. Hell yeah, that's what's up, I replied. The point that I'm trying to make here is that everyone is getting tattooed these days. People of all ages. Men, women, boys, girls, doctors, lawyers, etc. It's all just part of pop culture now. So, like it or not, tattoos are here to stay. I just want you, whoever you are, to remember to take good care of yours. Go ahead and take that extra few minutes this morning to really make yours shine and get the most out of it. Let's make them shine. Or, better yet, let's make them pop. To the life of your tattoo. Okay, guys, this is Ryan Jaunzemis signing off. I want to personally thank you for purchasing my product, and I hope that this book has brought you a few new insights. I hope my advice will assist you in the natural healing process of your new tattoo. I wish you Godspeed and a quick and safe recovery. For more advice on tattoos and tattoo aftercare, make sure to visit my new website, www.tattoosbyryanjaunzemis.com. For your health and for the life of your tattoo, this is Ryan Jaunzemis. Thank you, and best wishes to you all. Signed, Ryan Jaunzemis. This concludes this audio program. For more information, please visit www.tattoosbyryanjaunzemis.com. Thank you.